Washington has two building projects making headlines, and somehow both are expensive enough to make your mortgage rate blush. On one side, the Federal Reserve's renovation of two historic buildings, now estimated around $2.46 billion. On the other, the White House East Wing rebuild tied to the ballroom plan, first pitched around $200 million, later described as $400 million. And here's the twist. This isn't just construction drama. It's a power fight, subpoenas, threats, and the question of whether the Fed stays independent. What triggered this? Federal Chair Jerome Powell says the Department of Justice served grand jury subpoenas to the Federal Reserve and threatened a criminal indictment tied to his June testimony about the renovation. Powell's claim is blunt. This is pressure, a pretext to push the Fed into rate cuts and undermine independence. The White House line? Officials say they respect independence, and some defend the probe as simple oversight. Let's compare the overruns, cleanly. Federal HQ 2 building renovation, Eccles plus 1951, Constitution Ave. Reported estimate, $188 billion in 2024 to $2.46 billion by mid-2025. That's a $580 million, about 31% more. Some administration officials characterize it as over $700 million in overruns, so the public argument bounces between $580 million and $700 million, depending on how it's framed. White House East Wing rebuild. Ballroom plan. The White House announcement described an $200 million project at launch. Later reporting quotes the president putting it at $400 million, double. So who wins? Biggest percent jump, East Wing, about was 100%. Biggest dollar jump, Fed HQ about $580 million to $700 million. Now, why did they jump? For the Fed. You're renovating historic buildings. Reporting points to asbestos, lead contamination, soil issues, and preservation requirements. Classic, open the wall, find a nightmare territory. For the East Wing, the administration argues it wasn't economical to save parts of the old structure, and the scope has expanded as the ballroom plan grew. Quick truth, remodels are where budgets go to church, to pray for mercy. Here's the fair question, is this accountability or retaliation? Accountability argument. If any major institution blows past projections, people deserve answers. That's normal. Retaliation argument. Powell says the subpoenas and indictment threat are intimidation aimed at forcing rate cuts, and reporting shows this fight sits inside a bigger Trump versus Fed conflict over interest rates. And even some Republican lawmakers are warning this kind of move threatens Fed independence.
Prosecutors have launched a criminal investigation into Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell related to his testimony before a Senate committee about the multi-billion-dollar renovation of two Federal Reserve buildings. Powell firing back overnight, claiming the investigation is really about President Trump's pressure campaign to undermine the Fed's independence and get Powell to lower interest rates.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
President Trump overnight denied any involvement in the investigation, but just 2 weeks ago made this threat.
We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion. $4 billion.
The renovations, which ballooned past initial budget estimates, were the subject of a public showdown last July, when Trump paid a rare visit to the Fed.
It looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
The Fed has attributed spending overruns to unforeseen cost increases. Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna claims Powell lied under oath and has pushed the Justice Department to investigate, saying, "Unelected bureaucrats do not get a free pass. No one is above the law." The financial markets turning lower overnight in response to the investigation. Analysts questioning the long-term impact.
I think it's nothing more than political pressure on the Fed for not doing what the Trump administration wants, right? Not cutting rates faster than they have been. It's a smokescreen. I understand maybe they spent too much money. I get it. It's an old building.
President Trump, during his first term, picked Powell to lead the Fed, praising his judgment. But this morning, Powell says the Justice Department has served the Fed with subpoenas, an unprecedented escalation that could have significant consequences for the U.S. economy.
This matters because when the Fed's credibility gets shaky, markets don't shrug, they price risk. If people think rates are set by intimidation instead of data, you can see volatility in bonds, mortgages, and business confidence. Economists are already warning about the independence issue. And no, this isn't abstract. Rate policy touches your credit cards, car loans, rent pressure, and savings yields. Jesus' line in Luke 14:28 is simple. Count the cost before you build. That applies to personal life, and it applies to public leadership. Because stewardship isn't a vibe, it's a standard. It is required of stewards that they be found faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. So yes, audit the spending, but also don't weaponize the law to win a policy argument. You can demand transparency and protect institutions. Adults can do both. Toddlers can't. So here's what to watch next. Does the DOJ probe broaden or fizzle? Do we get clearer documentation on the Fed renovation numbers and scope? Does the White House explain how the East Wing project doubled and publish full donor transparency? If you want accountability, demand receipts from everybody, not just the guy you're mad at this week. If this helped you understand the money and the power play, hit subscribe, because we're tracking the numbers, not the talking points. Drop a comment. Which is worse, 31% over or 100% over? And share this with the friend who thinks government budget is a fairy tale genre.